So, I mean, you got to do what you think is right. You know, we've been on a long journey here, right? I mean, it's
Mark Zuckerberg is a name that almost everyone in the world recognizes, but very few people really understand the story behind his life, his career, and most importantly, his decisions about wealth and legacy. Born on May 14, 1984, in Dobbs Ferry, New York, Mark Elliott Zuckerberg grew up in a family that valued education, discipline, and hard work. His father, Dr. Edward Zuckerberg, was a dentist, and his mother, Karen Kempner, was a psychiatrist. From an early age, it was clear that Mark had a very different way of seeing the world. While other kids were busy playing video games or watching TV, Mark was curious about computers and how they worked. By the time he was just 11 years old, he had already created a messaging system called ZuckNet, which allowed the family to communicate between their house and his father's dental office. This early project might have seemed simple, but it revealed something important about Mark. He was not interested in consuming technology like other kids. He wanted to create it, control it, and use it to solve problems in practical ways. Mark attended Ardsley High School before transferring to Phillips Exeter Academy, where he not only focused on his coding skills, but also participated in activities like fencing, showing a mix of intellectual and physical discipline. During these years, he created a music player called Synapse Media Player, which used early machine learning to understand users' listening habits. This project gained attention online and earned recognition from magazines like PC Magazine, giving him his first taste of public acknowledgement. By high school, Mark was already taking graduate-level courses at Mercy College on Thursday nights, focusing on computer science. And by the time he arrived at Harvard University in 2002, his reputation as a young programming genius was already spreading. At Harvard, he studied psychology and computer science, but he quickly realized that lectures and classroom work were not what drove him. What interested him most was coding, building tools that could have real-world impact. He created tools like CourseMatch, which helped students choose courses based on their peers' choices, and FaceMash, a controversial site that allowed users to vote on which student photos were more attractive. The site gained huge attention, even overwhelming Harvard's network, and eventually led to controversy and public apologies. But for Mark, these experiences were lessons in momentum, creativity, and understanding how people reacted to technology. It was in this environment that Facebook was born. In February 2004, along with friends Eduardo Saverin, Andrew McCullum, Dustin Moskovitz, and Chris Hughes, Mark launched a new social platform that would soon become one of the most influential companies in the world. What began as a simple Harvard student directory quickly expanded to other universities, growing exponentially as word spread. Despite legal challenges from the Winklevoss twins and other disputes with early co-founders, Facebook continued to thrive. By 2005, the company had moved to a real office in Palo Alto, California, after initial startup experiments in cramped houses, fueled by long nights and endless coding. The early investments from venture capitalists like Peter Thiel gave the team the resources to scale, and Mark immersed himself in the culture of Silicon Valley, learning that ambition, persistence, and the ability to act quickly could transform ideas into empires. By 2010, Facebook had reached over 500 million users, becoming more than just a student network. It was a global platform. Zuckerberg's philosophy of hacking, building, and iterating quickly became central to the company's DNA. Hackathons and all-night coding sessions were regular events, where engineers were encouraged to create something new in a single night, a culture that Zuckerberg actively participated in. Recognition came in various forms, including listings on MIT Technology Review's Top Innovators Under 35, Vanity Fair, and New Statesman. By 2012, Facebook had expanded internationally, and Mark was meeting with world leaders, including Russian officials, to discuss social media innovation. Yet growth never came without challenges. Facebook faced scandals, hacks, international legal battles, and employee lawsuits, including disputes with co-founder Eduardo Saverin and other early collaborators. Despite all this, Mark remained focused on building and expanding, refusing buyout offers and maintaining control over the company that had grown from a dorm room experiment into a billion-dollar global empire. While the public often saw Mark Zuckerberg as a tech genius and occasionally as a controversial figure, very few understood the personal side of his life. Behind the empire was a man who valued family, personal growth, and responsibility. His relationship with Priscilla Chan began quietly during his Harvard years and evolved into a marriage that has lasted decades despite scandals, business pressures, and public scrutiny. Their first child, Maxima, was born after multiple miscarriages, followed by two more daughters, August and Aurelia. While raising a family, Mark and Priscilla were deliberate about their values, emphasizing effort, responsibility, and purpose over entitlement, despite their enormous wealth. It was during this period that one of the most important decisions about Zuckerberg's fortune was made, a decision that would shock those who assumed that his billions would automatically go to his children. Instead of creating heirs in the traditional sense, Mark and Priscilla created the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, a structure designed to channel nearly all of their wealth toward causes that could impact society on a massive scale. This decision reflected a philosophy that wealth should not merely be inherited, but should be used as a tool to shape the world, influence education, health, science, and technology, and leave a legacy that transcended family bloodlines. The Chan Zuckerberg Initiative is not a typical charity. Structured as a limited liability company, it allows Mark and Priscilla to invest, lobby, and fund projects directly, with the returns reinvested into their mission. From the beginning, this structure reflected their belief that impact mattered more than accumulation. They wanted their children to grow up understanding effort, responsibility, and societal contribution, rather than expecting to inherit billions of dollars passively. Mark's philosophy emphasizes control at scale. The money is not just being given away, it is being directed toward outcomes he and Priscilla deem important, whether it's eradicating disease, improving education, or funding scientific research. By doing so, they have redefined what inheritance means in the modern world. Instead of handing money to the next generation, they are creating systems that will outlive them and continue to shape society long after they are gone. This approach challenges traditional expectations and makes Zuckerberg's fortune perhaps the most strategic and unusual inheritance plan in recent history. Even as Facebook transformed into Meta in 2021, marking a shift toward the metaverse, virtual reality, and future platforms, the inheritance plan remained consistent. While Meta's rebranding reflected a bet on technological evolution, it also reflected Mark's broader vision that control, impact, and legacy extend beyond personal or family gain. He sees the world as a system to improve, a set of outcomes to influence, rather than simply a collection of wealth to transfer. By choosing to invest his fortune in the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, he ensured that his billions would remain a tool for shaping the future. This plan, though controversial to some who expected family inheritance, aligns with Zuckerberg's lifelong focus, creating, controlling, and influencing systems, whether in technology or society, in ways that endure long after individual lives end. In the next section, we will dive deeper into the philosophy behind Zuckerberg's decision, how the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative functions in practice, and the social and cultural implications of redirecting one of the largest fortunes in history away from heirs and toward global influence. By understanding the thought process, values, and vision of Mark and Priscilla, we can gain insight not only into the billionaire's personal choices, but also into a broader shift in how wealth and legacy are defined in the 21st century. To understand why Mark Zuckerberg and Priscilla Chan chose not to leave their fortune to their children, it is important to look at the philosophy that drives them. From early on, Mark believed that money was a tool, not just a reward. His curiosity about the world and his desire to solve problems with technology have always been paired with a vision for impact. When Facebook became a global platform, it gave him enormous wealth, but it also gave him power and responsibility. Mark and Priscilla did not want their children to inherit billions simply as a legacy of family wealth. Instead, they wanted to set an example of how resources could be used to make a difference in the world. This is where the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative comes in, representing the fusion of their wealth, values, and vision for society. The Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, or CZI, was launched in December 2015, around the time their first child, Maxima, was born. The timing was no coincidence. For Mark and Priscilla, the birth of a child is not just a family milestone. It is a moment to reflect on the kind of world their children will grow up in. In an open letter addressed to Max, they promised to give away 99% of their Facebook shares over their lifetime to advance human potential and promote equality. This was a bold, unprecedented step, considering that at the time, the shares were worth around $45 billion. Over the years, Mark's wealth has grown dramatically, but the commitment to CZI has never wavered. By creating this initiative, Mark and Priscilla set up a structure where they can direct their wealth toward education, science, healthcare, technology, and community projects around the world. They wanted their children to learn a different lesson about wealth, that it is a tool for change, not just a collection of assets to inherit. What makes the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative different from a traditional charity is its structure. It is set up as a limited liability company, or LLC, which gives Mark and Priscilla a great deal of flexibility. Unlike a standard nonprofit, an LLC allows them to invest in companies, fund projects, lobby for legislation, and support initiatives in ways that can have a direct and measurable impact. The returns from these investments are reinvested into the mission, rather than being distributed to shareholders or heirs. This structure gives the couple the ability to respond quickly to emerging problems, invest in long-term research, and influence the development of new technologies. In essence, they are using their wealth to create systems that outlast them, rather than leaving a static inheritance for their children. Over the years, CZI has funded a wide range of projects. In education, it has invested in personalized learning programs, helping schools use technology to better meet students' individual needs. In healthcare, it has funded research into curing diseases such as cancer and rare genetic disorders. It has also invested in criminal justice reform, housing initiatives, and immigrant support programs. The initiative is guided by the belief that tackling systemic problems requires systemic solutions. Mark and Priscilla see their wealth not as something to sit in a vault, but as a set of resources that can be used strategically to influence real change. By doing this, they are redefining what it means to inherit a fortune. Instead of passing on money, they are passing on the tools to make the world a better place. The decision to redirect wealth towards CZI also reflects their approach to parenting. Mark and Priscilla are raising their 3 daughters, Max, August, and Aurelia, with a focus on responsibility, effort, and understanding the value of work. The children have chores, are involved in family decisions, and are exposed to their parents' philanthropic activities. This helps them learn that wealth is not entitlement. It is a means to accomplish something meaningful. By witnessing their parents' commitment to CZI, the children are growing up with the knowledge that their family's wealth is not meant for personal accumulation, but to influence society. In this sense, they are inheriting values, vision, and responsibility, rather than billions of dollars sitting in a trust fund. Mark's approach is unusual among billionaires. Many wealthy families pass down vast fortunes to the next generation, creating heirs who may inherit influence and privilege without direct responsibility. Mark and Priscilla's approach flips that model entirely. They are deliberately preventing their daughters from becoming traditional heirs, instead ensuring that the wealth is channeled towards systems, projects, and platforms that reflect their vision for society. This choice may seem radical, but it aligns perfectly with Mark's long-term thinking and strategic mindset. Throughout his life, Mark has consistently chosen control over comfort, ambition over complacency, and systems over static structures, directly influencing the outcomes of his wealth rather than simply leaving it behind is a continuation of that philosophy. The Chan Zuckerberg Initiative also represents a way to multiply impact beyond what personal wealth could achieve alone. By leveraging investments, partnerships, and strategic funding, Mark and Priscilla are able to address problems on a global scale. They are not simply giving money to charity and hoping for results. They are building infrastructure, funding research, and investing in technology that could transform how people live and work. In this way, their fortune has a purpose that extends far beyond family inheritance. While billions might have been concentrated in the hands of a few heirs, the CZI model allows the same wealth to touch millions, creating influence that is exponential rather than limited to family circles. Philanthropy at this scale is not just about money. It is about vision, strategy, and execution. Mark and Priscilla understand that the challenges facing society, whether in healthcare, education, or technology, cannot be solved by small, isolated donations. They require coordinated, system-level approaches. By keeping control of the fortune while directing it towards CZI, they ensure that their money can be used strategically, maximizing its effectiveness. This approach reflects Mark's identity as a problem solver, someone who seeks not only to create companies, but to create lasting change in the world. At the same time, the choice not to leave a traditional inheritance raises interesting questions about the children's perspective. Will they feel deprived of wealth, or will they understand and embrace the values of responsibility, social impact, and service? Mark and Priscilla seem confident that the lessons learned through participation in their initiatives, exposure to philanthropic work, and observation of how wealth can influence society are more valuable than billions sitting in a trust fund. By engaging their children in the process and making them aware of the broader mission, they are preparing them to inherit not just money, but purpose, strategy, and vision. Finally, this approach challenges conventional notions of inheritance, legacy, and family wealth. Mark and Priscilla have chosen influence over heirs, impact over accumulation, and systems over static fortune. In doing so, they have created a model that could inspire other wealthy families to think differently about their own legacies. The Chan Zuckerberg Initiative shows that wealth can be used to shape society in ways that outlast the lifespan of the individual, and that inheritance can be more than passing money. It can be about passing vision, responsibility, and strategic influence. This philosophy, while radical, is rooted in Mark Zuckerberg's lifelong values: curiosity, control, and the desire to create outcomes that last. As Mark Zuckerberg and Priscilla Chan continue to implement their vision through the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, the impact of their decision not to leave their fortune to their children is becoming increasingly visible. Their approach is unusual in the world of billionaires, where inheritance often defines family legacy, social standing, and generational wealth. By choosing to redirect nearly all of their wealth into projects, systems, and platforms that serve societal goals, they are not only challenging the traditional model of family inheritance, but also sending a clear message about the role of money and influence in the modern era. Their children, Max, August, and Aurelia, are growing up in an environment that emphasizes responsibility, purpose, and social impact, rather than privilege and accumulation. Instead of inheriting static financial assets, they inherit the principles and values of how to use resources for meaningful outcomes. This approach, though unconventional, reflects the broader mindset that has guided Mark's life from childhood through the rise of Facebook and into the creation of Meta. Zuckerberg's approach to inheritance is closely linked to his long-term vision for Meta and society as a whole. When he rebranded Facebook as Meta in 2021, the move was more than a corporate name change. It symbolized a shift toward building future systems and digital worlds that could redefine human interaction. The metaverse, virtual reality platforms, and interconnected social spaces represent his attempt to create structures that will influence billions of people over the coming decades. This mindset carries over to how he approaches philanthropy and legacy. Instead of passing wealth directly to his children, he is creating infrastructure and platforms through CZI that have the potential to affect education, healthcare, and scientific discovery on a global scale. In essence, Zuckerberg's fortune becomes a mechanism for influence, extending far beyond the reach of traditional inheritance. The choice reflects his consistent philosophy. Wealth is most powerful when used to shape outcomes, not when stored or handed down passively. The cultural impact of this approach is already evident. Media, analysts, and the public are divided in their response. Some view it as visionary, arguing that by using his wealth to tackle systemic problems, Mark is creating a legacy that is more meaningful than a mere inheritance for his children. Others criticize the decision, suggesting that by keeping his children from inheriting billions, he is denying them the opportunity to leverage their family wealth in ways they might see fit. Social media discussions, news articles, and opinion pieces often debate whether this model is practical, ethical, or sustainable. Despite the debate, Mark and Priscilla remain committed to their philosophy. Their goal is not to please critics or to follow tradition. It is to ensure that their wealth can be used strategically to maximize impact and create systems that continue long after they are gone. This long-term thinking is a reflection of Mark's broader approach to business and life, where the focus is on building and controlling outcomes rather than simply acquiring assets. Another element of the cultural discussion around Zuckerberg's approach is the way it influences perceptions of parenthood, wealth, and education. By raising their children without the expectation of direct inheritance, Mark and Priscilla emphasize values like empathy, responsibility, and service. Their daughters witness firsthand how their parents' fortune is being used to tackle real-world problems, from personalized learning in schools to cutting-edge scientific research. These lessons are intended to instill a sense of purpose rather than entitlement. Observers note that this approach may help foster independent thinking, creativity, and resilience in the next generation. It also reframes wealth as a tool for societal influence rather than personal accumulation, encouraging a mindset that prioritizes contribution and long-term impact over comfort and privilege. In this way, the Zuckerbergs are not just redefining inheritance, they are redefining how children understand wealth, responsibility, and their potential role in the world. The Chan Zuckerberg Initiative itself reflects this philosophy in action. Unlike traditional foundations or charities that have rigid rules and bureaucracies, CZI operates with flexibility and vision. It can invest in startups, fund scientific research, lobby for policy changes, and support programs in ways that maximize both short-term results and long-term systemic change. For instance, investments in education technology are designed not only to improve immediate learning outcomes, but also to create systems that can scale to benefit millions of students. In healthcare, the focus is on eradicating diseases and advancing medical research in ways that could have lasting global effects. By controlling their wealth through this platform, Mark and Priscilla maintain the ability to influence decisions, measure results, and adapt strategies as the world changes. This model demonstrates that inheritance can be active rather than passive. Wealth can continue to work and create outcomes even when it is not directly held by heirs.